Yeah, all right. That's cool. Hey, I am not operating on all cylinders. I must not be. No, you could hear. Just had temporary deafness. I had temporary brainlessness. What would I do without hearing? uh, yeah. So, like I was gonna say, totally funny because that kind of fits in with Stone and I taking like I don't know how many months to reconnect after she moved. And she says, "Well, when are we going to have a good old fashioned chin wag?" And I was like, "Hey, I can't do anything this weekend. Well, well, I'm free tonight." I was like, "No, I can't." So we in short, I said tomorrow this time. So it ended up being for me. I'm usually crashing by 10 o'clock at night. Uh, did not take it easy at all yesterday. So I'm connecting with Stone about 8:45 last night. And I think we finished up my time about 11:30. That all being said, I did click the record button, but you have to click it there and then you have to tell it where to record, send it a recording. Are you going to record to cloud or on your computer? Or what are you going to do with it? Clearly I neglected to do that. So sometimes when I move this microphone, you can see that the button is right there. And when I move it, it sometimes, yeah. So yeah, it is. That's perfect. Let's start over. Take two. Um, for for Stone and I, we were just like, this is like divine intervention because some of the things that we talked about, you know, I think we probably could have gotten into some trouble, not necessarily with the platforms. I definitely wouldn't have been able to put it out onto YouTube, but I think probably would have gotten slapped by a few people that would have been offended. I know you're supposed to say who cares, but yeah, there were some double-edged sword things going on there. And one of the things that she had asked me was, well, what is it that Augie and I talked about that would have been a problem on YouTube? And I said, well, one of the things that when we talked last week on the phone, he says, well, what do you want to talk about? And I kind of put it back in his court. I'm going to see if I can find it. We talked about taking notes, and it looks like he's a lot more organized than I am. I'm not going to lie. Um, I still need to get over to this coal mine. They say it's a coal mine. I'm not convinced. Anyway, so Augie says, well, we need to start asking why and discernment. He mentioned on the phone conversation victims and maybe playing victimhood and gender, of course, is pretty hot. You're starting to see some TikTok stuff posted around about people being offended, and the people they're being offended at is like really over the top, which I'm not really surprised at people getting upset because here's my thing. It's all about this whole belief system. And you can believe what you want to believe. That's fine. You can have the lifestyle that you want. That's fine. And if you feel judged, maybe you need to look inside and say why. And look at yourself, pull up the mirror and ask yourself why you feel offended. Because ultimately, you shouldn't. If you've done nothing wrong to hurt yourself, if you've done nothing wrong to hurt other people, there is nothing to be offended at. And if somebody wants to take a different viewpoint and they have a different way of expressing respect, you need to respect that too. So we can kind of, you can't have it all one way. There has to be an equilibrium. And I think with the media pressing this whole thing about, choice and honoring someone else's belief system. That's the way I'm going to, or lifestyle. You have whatever lifestyle you want. It doesn't mean I have to partake in it. Doesn't mean I have to herald it. Doesn't even mean I have to honor it. What I do have to have is respect for the human being that stands in front of me. And I will defend you and I will defend myself if someone disrespects you. However, that's a double-edged sword for those people who tend to get a little too offended. That kind of, that's a slippery slope. So just be careful, don't spew nasty bits of business about other people. And we all do it, because we get hurt, we get injured, and we have to stop and step back. Well, why did I feel injured? Why did I get upset over what somebody said? Because if it's not true, there's no power in there. It's not really a dart unless you make it a dart. It should be more like a Nerf dart. But yeah. So yeah, I had this huge conversation with Stone. Like I said, I think it was like 2.5 hours. I struggle to just sit here, and for me, this is just blathering on. Stone and I are going to have to reschedule for something to do in the future. Going to be a little more organized, I think. She's pretty organized. Augie, very organized. He showed me the logbook, and they're really nice. I don't know how much they cost now, but we used to use them when I worked at the substance use facility, where they would use them back on the different units for like the kids and adults and the women and all that. But they would use them to log each day's events. It would be like their progress notes or their case notes, whatever. That's how they would keep track of that. Parched, excuse me. Lime water and ice. Chipped ice, got to be chipped ice. I'll break my tooth on the other ones. So other than that, life's been pretty good. I hope it's been good for other people. I came to some realizations that I'm not physically able to like carry the things that I used to. Stone and I had a conversation about we need to be working within our limits, not just our psychological limits, but also our physical limits. And I used to do massage therapy, and I found the single biggest duffel bag I could find, had wheels on the back, and I had 2 of those egg carton foam. They were for twin beds. I don't think I know, I think I got a double and cut it in half because I wanted to wrap around the table. And then I would had like the cushion for your head. I had a cushion for your arms. I had this really nice bolster for your knees. But I used to take my table, nice wide table. I used to take that big honking duffel bag, and there I am, because I didn't work in one place, and I didn't want to leave I had one. I think it was a tanning salon. I went there at the request of another customer. They said yes, so I rented space from them. Did that there, but I also had 2, as needed contracts with not anything in writing. It was just, hey, call me up. Hey, we need you. And one place actually did hire me for physical therapy offices, and those you had to, write out proper DAP notes or a SOAP note, whatever they had, and then you would follow whatever that prescription was for treatment. And then I had a traveling business, and I would schlep all that stuff between my traveling business, and I would not leave it at that tanning salon because I just didn't like the setup, didn't like the area. I mean, it wasn't in a bad area. I just didn't like it. I wasn't comfortable with it. And then I would travel to people's homes. I would travel and, we're not talking about, they owned, they were like doctors or executives, or they had big companies like cement companies through like a huge area. So people with a lot of money that could afford that kind of stuff. So that was a really good experience. I learned a lot from a lot of different people. You met a lot of people from different walks of life. I definitely got a different set of clientele at the salon than I did with my traveling around clients, visiting them in their homes. That was good too, because then I had the other side of it working in a more clinical setting. But it was physically strenuous. I mean, it was really, really hard. That doesn't necessarily mean it was bad. Like I said, it was a really good experience, and I know what it takes to go through something where you have to do some travel. I also did, I think it was 3 seasons with the Detroit Vipers hockey team. So that was, schlepping my stuff to and from there. And that was more or less volunteer work. The players tried to reimburse us for our travel expenses, et cetera. But yeah, I'm telling you, that was a lot of physical work. And that's not something I can do anymore. Uh, so having said all of that, I'm really going to try and do as much remote as I possibly can. And I don't have a place here. My house is actually kind of torn up right now with boxes. I did a better job today, got a little organized. So I have like a huge box sitting on the porch, but I'm not sure why all this stuff is getting set up the way it is. Maybe there's something else that's on the horizon that I'll be able to take advantage of. Not sure. So again, I hope everybody's able to sit in on this thing I did with Augie. It's kind of on the long thing part, but I'm gonna have to do a short version. I'm gonna try and get that organized today. And it was fun. I had a lot of fun. He's a pretty interesting individual. He's done a lot. He knows a lot of different things. So I think that was basically kind of sort of it. Yeah. But it was interesting too that the conversation between Stone and Augie, Stone kept bringing up, and it's like, I talked to Augie about that earlier today, and I think I repeated that like 3 or 4 times. I don't think I finished my idea about the masks coming off. That's really interesting because people do want to see things move forward and move forward quickly. And keep in mind that not everybody's going to be prepared, and some people are going to say, yeah, that's okay. That's from your perspective, and you have to keep in mind that there are so many people that are so embroiled in and running in fear. We need to get away from the fear. We need to get away from being fearful. And that whole mask, that little spiel right there, that if you imagine that those who are around us that are not who we think they are, I'm going to put it that way, and they were to take off their mask or they were to drop a facade, you're going to react like a lot of these animals did. Don't think you're going to be smart enough or prepared enough. This is the comparison on a very simplistic scale of how humanity would react if those who are with us trying to make things work or trying to throw wrenches in the works, this is how if they were to strip that off, I think this is how people would react. And then the last one I showed in that little reel was a panda. And I think the panda's reaction is absolutely precious, because it's what we all need to do when we start having a reaction to something. Is the panda step back, and its whole body posture, its eyes got big, it just went like this. And I think that's what maybe we need to try and do now before the shock. And with honest lenses, is stepping back. So we're not going to be as shocked. Doesn't mean we're not going to get shocked. It doesn't mean we're not going to be surprised. Does not mean we were going to be 100% prepared, but it is going to be helpful to step back and get a bigger picture of what we think is going on. And I think right now, one of the other things that kind of came up was, and I didn't push it because I still feel like whatever your belief system is, and science is a belief system, no different. Whatever your belief system is can foster how you view the reality. And what I mean by that is, whatever you've bought into that program, all of us have. And I want to be that panda and just keep pushing back and getting the bigger picture so I can see it, have a better view of what's going on with all people. But I think a good example was a family member pointing out that, say, hey, look at the resident in the oval, and then look at what that individual looked like 10 years from now. Doesn't that look like a different person? And they looked at them and said, what are you talking about? That's the same guy. I don't need to explain anymore. That's the programming aligned with a belief system. And again, it's fear-based, it's shock-based. So let's get as much information as we can, not throw any babies out with the bathwater, and just kind of chill with whatever seems to get thrown in our direction. Because we're not where we think we are. We're not who they're trying to tell us we are, and things aren't going to happen the way, so far, that I've heard anybody say. I have not seen anything come to fruition, no matter who you are. None of it. So again, let's get that bigger picture. Let's realize that our belief system and what we pay attention to, how do you say it? It's that time and attention and intensity. Time, attention, and intensity is what's going to really create not just your reality, but it's going to ripple. It's going to ripple out, and it's going to affect other people. So having said that, yippee skippy, I am going to continue working on this. I'm going to try and get this posted later today and on YouTube, but it is going to go up on Rumble first because it just takes forever. It's even worse for BitChute though. And I haven't bothered putting the last couple of things up on Odyssey. It's just a lot of time. And hey, this is a fun gig for me. This is not what I do for a living, but I do want to continue to offer coaching services and any kind of intuitive guidance that people might want. Keep in mind that what coaching, I gotta put a little thing out there that says what coaching is, because I think people kind of relate to that terminology like it's sports and it's very restricted, and it's not. It isn't for me anyway. And I think I do a pretty dang skippy good job at what I do for a living anyway. I'm going to click the more button. I'm going to click the live stream button, and I'm going to tell everybody to have a fantastic and blessed weekend here. Just do your best. No fear. Yowza.